Hello there. Welcome. What are you expecting today? Because whatever you're expecting, that's exactly what you're going to receive. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about, well, one of my favorite laws, which is the law of decision. But I'm going to share with you a manifestation story that defies the logic. And you don't know me very well, obviously, but I have here on my wall used with washable markers, and I have a couple here on my desk. Okay, Crayola Ultra Clean Washable, Ultra Lavable. Okay, so I have washable markers and I write in my bedroom on the walls. Okay, so this is a wallpaper in the back, but on the wall here I have paint. And I use washable markers to write on the wall. And right there it says, do the illogical, Lumi. I want to show you how to do the illogical, how to defy the logic. The logic or the reasoning mind draws conclusions from two places. If you've heard of Neville Goddard, I'm sure you know he talks about how we draw conclusions, the reasoning mind. He learned how to work against the logic or the reasoning mind, meaning he learned that there are two ways where our mind draws conclusions from. One is the natural way, which we have been conditioned to draw conclusions from, and that is our present circumstances. We look at our present circumstance, we analyze it, we judge it, and usually against ourselves, and we make the decision or conclusion in agreement, or we come up with a conclusion logically. Well, if this is what I have, and the state and my government said this, and I have this money in the bank, therefore I can't have it. I can't have it. So your mind right now agreed with logic, agrees with this conclusion, with this affirmation. And then Neville talks about another place that you can draw conclusions from, and that is imagination. When I ask my clients, number one, what would bring you relief out of this situation? They don't know what it is because they have never learned to use the imagination. They don't know the power of the laws of mind. They don't know the power of the laws of the universe. They don't have experience. They have not been trained to look back into their life and pick the dots and connect the dots. But as I coach and mentor, I help them look into the past, and that's when they begin to connect the dots, and that's when their mind goes like a light bulb, like, oh, I see, so that's what this means, and that's what I've done, and that's what I should have done, right? When I ask the clients, what would bring you relief out of the situation, what I'm saying is, if you look at your circumstance, what would be the opposite? Well, this would be the opposite. Well, it's not enough to just state that statement. You have to create it now. You have to create the solution. It's not enough to know the solution. That's why knowledge is not enough. It's power, but it's not empowering you. You know what it is that you want, but if you're not doing it, you're not going to have it. And Neville talks about the doing. It's the doing in the mind. That means you're supposed to create it in the mind. You create the solution in the mind. That means you've got to see the strategy, or you've got to see the plan, or you've got to see the end. All of this is done in the mind. So the solution now becomes a new conclusion. But you cannot draw a conclusion if you don't have a circumstance. That means if you have not elaborated in your imagination a scenario, you cannot draw a conclusion out of that. So for example, you might start with a conclusion and then you build the imagination, or you can allow yourself freely to imagine what it would be like and then come down with a conclusion and say, yeah, I do have the car. According to what I have seen internally, I have the car. So you can go into the imagination like a child, willingly, submissively, or you can use the will to go into your imagination to draw a conclusion. That means you can imagine at will and draw a conclusion, and that becomes your affirmation. Or you can willingly, as a child, go into the imagination, allow yourself to dream, and then all of a sudden you have a conclusion. You come down with a conclusion and say, I have seen the solution. Meaning, I have seen myself with my SP. I have seen myself with the car. Now, this is where your faith is going to be tested. But you know that faith comes by hearing and hearing of the Word of God. The Word of God is nothing but these conclusions, these statements, or these promises. What you saw in the mind, it's a promise. And every promise comes with a yes. It's yours. But do you believe it's yours? Well, belief comes from hearing your own words or hearing your own conclusion. So now that you've seen it, a lot of people say, well, but I don't see the solution. I don't know how this is going to happen. I don't know how this is going to happen. It's not how that you need to know. What you need to know is, did you see yourself with the thing? Did you conceptualize it? Did you give it birth? Did you become one with your desire? That means, did you see yourself with it? Did you touch it? You've got to use your imagination, your imaginary hand, and touch it and feel it and smell it. Did you do that? Did you do the work? Don't be a hearer. Did you do the work? Every worker is worthy of his reward. You are worthy of that conclusion now. You see how much you have for you and not against you when you understand the power of the mind. So we draw conclusions from imagination now. If you look back and connect the dots, you would say, yeah, I see why my relationship broke apart, because I began to think negative of him or her. Okay, why don't you think positive of you and this very thing you want? Begin to imagine it, to talk about it, to see it. And every time you talk about it, guess what happens in the mind? A car, a car, a car, your partner, your partner, your partner, money, money, money. The universe takes these signals out like a boomerang, right? You send them out and they come back like a boomerang. Money, money, money. SP, SP, SP. Job, job, job. Work, work, work. Whatever you want. The universe takes it as your insistence as a little child. Please, 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 Daddy, please give me this. Please give me this. And the universe has to respond. It's a law. It responds anyway. You don't have to cry. You don't have to beg. Your own conclusions, you don't have to beg for them. I meet a lot of clients and they go into the victim mentality and they cry. When it comes to the laws of the universe, your legal right is to receive, and you receive all the time anyway, because your manifestations is what you receive. So you receive on a constant basis. The question is, do you receive what you want? Because if you don't, it means you've been manifesting or receiving what you don't want. And that's when you become the victim of your own mentality. You become the victim of your own conclusions. So again, I show the clients, the circumstance is neutral. What you need to focus on is the solution, the desire, the decision, what it is you want. Make a decision. Yes, this is what I want. Of course, this is what I want. What do you mean this is not what I want? Now, let me share a manifestation story with you because of what I just said last. I was driving in the car. I was going to my friend's house and I wanted to play tennis that particular day. I was not feeling very well. I was rehearsing negative conclusions in my mind and I was in a very low place. And I thought, this is important, I thought, well, if I go and play tennis with my friend, I'm going to feel fantastic. I'm going to release some energy. I'm going to feel good. And we do that many times, right? We think that by doing something on the outside is going to take care of the mind. Not so. Not so. So as I'm driving, I was 2 miles away from the house and I wanted to tell my friend, hey, I'm going to be close to the house. No, actually, this is not what happened. Hold on. This was about like 5 miles before that. And in my mind, I was pressed by these conclusions in my mind. I kept feeding my mind so much that I felt overwhelmed. I was so low, such negative vibration. And then I said, now wait a minute. I said, in the fourth dimension, there is no sadness. There's only peace, love, and joy. I said, there's a version of me happy. I'm being in the car, I'm driving, and I said, I am happy. And my circumstance was telling me, no, you're not happy. Of course you're not happy. And I said, of course I'm happy. And I kept focusing on the fourth dimension, meaning this knowing that in the fourth dimension, there's a version of me that's happy. And I kept pressing through. But the conclusion from the present circumstance was speaking in my ear. You're not happy. Are you a fool? Really, that's the self-talk in the back of my mind. This is the self-judging. I wasn't loving myself. I was allowing that voice to be loud, but I spoke over it. And I continued to press on it. Here's how it went. A rant for 2 minutes. Of course I'm happy. No, you're not. Yeah, I am happy. And I was louder and louder, as if more firm, more decisive. I'm always happy. I'm always happy. With this understanding and this image in the mind that I'm always happy, that the fourth dimension is always happy. So I was trying to reach out to that. Even though the present circumstance wanting me to hold on to this negative conclusion, I was drawing the conclusion from the fourth dimension, knowing that there's a version of me like that, and I need to keep into agreement with it, right? The conclusion was I'm happy. And I kept thinking in the fourth dimension, there's a version of me happy, and I saw myself happy. So I kept agreeing with it. I kept holding on to it, reaching towards it, pressing through, pushing through. I am happy. Of course I'm happy. I'm always happy. Yeah, I am happy. It's as if like, damn it, I'm always happy. Like, the circumstance is not going to have me draw any more conclusions out of it. I've done that for 2 minutes. It got so quiet in my mind. I felt as if the world was staying still, literally. I felt as if the world was staying still. The waters of my mind, because of my energy and my spirit that came above the waters of my mind, it was still. Literally, I wasn't sad, I wasn't happy, I didn't feel joy, I was neutral. I was in a place of neutrality. And then intuition said, hey, you're 2 miles away from your friend. It's almost as if I kicked out of that mental state, and I said, the next thing, I said, I'm 2 miles away from my friend. Let me tell him that I'm close by and have him put the rackets and the tennis balls by the door. I couldn't text, so I dictated for the first time ever. And I pressed send without reading. And then I read it. And it came out as a sexual text. Don't know why, but I'm going to be honest and transparent with you. There were some words in there, and I thought, OMG, and I sent this to a guy. And all I said, hey, listen, I'm 2 miles away from you, the rackets and the balls. And somehow in there, it was a word, sexual word, and I thought, oh my goodness. It was that broke that silence in me, and I began to laugh. And I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed. And then I said to myself, I am happy. I am happy. I feel so good, and I had an amazing tennis match. So I couldn't change my present circumstance just by words alone. I had to do the work also, because I kept reaching towards that ideal, me being happy. And I knew that in the fourth dimension, there's any possibility, anything exists. All I have to do is call it out. So what am I saying is, I could have looked at my present circumstance and keep drawing conclusions out of it and stay in this place of a victim, or I had to look in the fourth dimension and say, there's infinite possibilities, and my solution right now, the possibility for me that will help me and save me, is that one. If I'm sad, I'm happy. So I began to draw conclusions out of the fourth dimension, the field of the infinite possibilities. So that's what I want you to do. Whatever you find yourself right now, there is a version of you with whatever you want out there. Infinite possibilities. When you say anything is possible, that means infinite possibilities. What are you vibrating with? How do you dissolve this negative self-talk or these negative conclusions? Is by pressing on, pursuing, persisting, pressing through. Neville Goddard did that at night with the ladder. I did that, and you can watch my previous video. I did that internally when it came to my daughter cleaning her room. So obviously you can do affirmations internally and you can do it externally. They work both ways, but you've got to keep your eyes on the prize. The prize was me being happy. The prize was my daughter cleaning her room, or the room being clean. She could have called the maid. Her father could have called the maid. But it took her to clean the room. So you can watch the previous video with that. We have the power to change our circumstances, to move people, and listen to the power of decision in the videos where I talk about decision, because that's so important. Every moment of the day, you have the power to decide if you want to stay in the victim or if you want to stay in the success. Now, this is over 14 minutes long. I'm going to leave you with this, and I hope you understand. Reach out to me if you need help any further. As always, with gratitude, Luminita.